Hey y'all, I'm back with another video, and as you can already see from the title and the thumbnail that this video is about Raz B and the whole scandal involving him and Chris Stokes, his cousin, first cousin I believe, and manager of the group B2K, the group that Raz B he co-founded. So I'm going to get into both Raz B's chart, Chris Stokes' chart, and their synastry, just some of the aspects that contribute to Raz B's allegations. Now, R. Kelly is getting all this focus right now, but Chris Stokes is under the radar, and he's been under the radar for quite a while now. A lot of people do know that Chris Stokes has been alleged to have molested members of the B2K group, which I used to love back in the day, especially that one album with they had everything on there and Sleeping. Very well put together album. Like, these boys were sharp back in the day, and they were all great dancers. You know, Marion was part of the group. But anyway, Chris Stokes was the business manager, and he was also Raz B's cousin. So Raz B came out saying that Chris Stokes molested him as well as other members in the B2K group. And he even threw in Marques Houston, because Marques Houston was in the group Immature. And I saw an interview with Raz B, I think it was with Vlad, and Raz B was saying that he looked up to Marques Houston when he was in Immature. So, you know, he was really hurt when Marques Houston started joining in with molesting him and all that type of stuff. So, like I said, R. Kelly's getting all this focus right now, and it does seem like when it comes to the sexual abuse of boys, that it doesn't get as much attention as it does with girls, especially when it's in the media. So hopefully that can change, and I'm hoping that Chris Stokes will have to answer for what he has alleged to be done, what he has allegedly done. So this story is just crazy, but it's really typical of the music industry. So the music industry is plagued with pedophilia, all types of abuse, and even, you know, dealing with adults in the entertainment industry. You know, they're subject to abuse in various forms as well. But really, this is about the children right now. So like I said, R. Kelly's getting all this focus. I'm putting some of the spotlight on Chris Stokes today. So let me just get into their charts. So we're going to start off with Raz B. And I'm not putting the chart up for this particular reading, the charts up, because sometimes I like to mix it up. I got Mars and Gemini. Sometimes I don't feel like going through the whole Zoom thing and doing all that stuff. So if you want to take a look at their charts, you know, you can pull them up on astro.com or Astro Theme or whatever like that. Now, Raz B was born June 13th, 1985. That makes him a Gemini. 13, in terms of birth number, can produce many changes, and that represents him being in a few singing groups. So he was in a few singing groups before he formed B2K with the others. So Raz B, he had an extensive musical career, even though he wasn't in the limelight, well before he joined B2K. Or, you know, he co-created B2K. But also that 13 represents the homosexual theme in his life. Not saying that he's gay. He has, you know, said that he's not gay. But I would think, considering what I see in his chart, that he does struggle with homosexual tendencies that could be brought on by him being abused by Chris Stokes. So his life path number is 6, and that deals with his musical career, also dancing. He's a good dancer. He was in that movie, You Got Served. Now, Mercury in Raz B's chart represents Chris Stokes, because Mercury represents relatives, represents siblings, but also relatives, which would include one's cousins. And like I said, Chris Stokes and Raz B are cousins, which makes this situation even more egregious. But as a lot of people already know, a lot of the sexual abuse, sexual molestation does occur within families. So this is a classic example of it. So I don't know what time Raz B was born, but his Mercury could be at the 29th degree of Gemini. I do believe that it is at the 29th degree of Gemini, considering his life experiences and the circumstances. So you know that 29th degree can be one of the most challenging, and it can bring conflicts within the family, and it can be an ancestral degree when you think an ancestral degree, when you take the 2 and 9 into account, because 2 represents family and 9 is sexual desire. So this won't play out in every case with people that have the 29th degree or that are born on the 29th, but you need to understand that numbers, signs, planets, they have different manifestations. Now, the 29th degree can also produce high pressure situations, also where there's interference from third parties. Now, Raz B's Mercury is conjoined to his Mars. His Mars is at the 2nd degree of Cancer, and that represents Chris Stokes' sexual advancements towards Raz B and the subsequent sexual abuse that took place. Also, Raz B's Mercury is opposed to his Neptune, and that can represent victimization at the hands of a sibling or relative. In Raz B's case, it is Chris Stokes, his cousin. This also can point to Raz B feeling trapped and at the mercy of Stokes, also where he's being humiliated by Stokes and possibly others. And then this is an aspect that also represents Raz B spilling the tea on Chris Stokes, and Stokes fucked Raz B's head up by abusing him because of that Mercury influence. So also, Geminis, they sing like birds. Like they're gonna speak their mind. So Chris Stokes actually kind of messed up by abusing Raz B. He didn't consider the consequences of Raz B being a Gemini. Now, Raz B's Mercury is in sesqui square to his Jupiter. His Jupiter is at the 16th degree of Aquarius. That 16th degree can be, one of victimization, secrets. So that could deal with Stokes being gay and rather out about it. Because again, remember, Mercury is representing Chris Stokes in Raz B's chart. So this aspect could point to Raz B in terms of his mindset and stuff, but it also could represent Chris Stokes. So you could look at this as Stokes behaving as if he has free reign to do what he wants. Also, where he is able to get away with what he does. Also, this deals with Raz B's membership in various singing groups. And it also reinforces Raz B speaking the truth about what happened. But with that sesqui square, it was to no avail really, because Stokes is still walking around a free man. Now, another very telling aspect is Raz B's Mercury is contra-parallel Nemesis. And it's at the 26th degree of Capricorn. That deals with business, also management. So this deals with Chris Stokes being Raz B's manager, but also there being some underlying sinister motives with it. So Nemesis deals with who is the culprit, who is to blame. So in this case, Stokes is the culprit because Mercury. And also you could look at Nemesis as the enemy, the bad guy, or even like a monster. Or, you could look at it as, Raz B considered Chris Stokes to be like his demon, like one of his personal demons or whatever in the flesh. So this also represents Raz B outing Stokes, because Nemesis in terms of mythology is the goddess who enacts retribution against those who succumb to hubris. And hubris, of course, is where you're very arrogant, you're very cocky, you think you're the shit, you think your shit don't stink. Now, Nemesis was the winged balancer of life, the dark-faced goddess, daughter of justice. So it means to feel justified in one's resentment. So this represents Raz B basically trying to exact justice upon Chris Stokes by outing him. Mercury is in sesqui square to his south node. His south node is at the 16th degree of Scorpio. There goes that 16th degree again, victimization, secrets. So Stokes basically triggered Raz B's past life tendencies because that south node's involved by sexually abusing him. Now, those who have Scorpio south nodes, they're naturally susceptible to all forms of abuse because of that energy from their past life is brought over into this current life. And a lot of times with the Scorpio South Node, it's going to manifest in some of the worst ways, and that can include rape, sexual abuse, all types of stuff. And also this points to the psychological abuse that Stokes inflicted upon Raz B. So I look at this aspect, Mercury sesqui square South Node, as Stokes creating some of Raz B's personal demons, just like how I said. And I also see this as the house of the strong man motif. So if you don't know what that is, let me just explain. So I read about this like probably about 10 years ago, and it really like it like had me twisted inside, because I was like, it rang true, but it's so dark, the concept, that I was just like, I remember I was like, just like, it like, what's the word? It unsettled me reading about it. But there's a website where you could find it, information on this. So just Google House of the Strong Man, and you can find this blog where they talk about this. So basically, House of the Strong Man means that if a child is sexually abused, especially if they're raped anally, I know this is graphic, but basically the abuser, the rapist, can implant a demon inside that person, and that's called the strong man. So with that, the abuser can have control over that person's mind. Like the abuser will fuck the person's mind up, and in that respect, the whole Stockholm syndrome goes into effect, where it's like the abused really can't separate from the abuser for a minute. Or where, you know, they create such psychological trauma that it affects them for the rest of their lives. So I just wanted to put that out there. I see that aspect dealing with that. Now, Raz B's Mercury runs parallel to Eurydice. Eurydice is an asteroid that can deal with where someone is chasing you. It also represents situations that involve death, especially death inflicted upon, like death dealing with like murder, or where it's some type of unjustified death or some type of freak accident. Now, this right here represents Chris Stokes stalking Raz B when he was in B2K. Stalking not in terms of where he couldn't reach him, but, you know, stalking him, sexually preying upon him. But I also see this as perhaps Raz B's life being threatened because of him releasing this information on Chris Stokes. And Raz B lives in China now. He's been living in China, I think, for the past 7 years, he said. And so it's like, I definitely believe that him going to China is directly related to him basically outing Chris Stokes. Oh, and another thing was, during that interview with Vlad, Raz B said that cause Vlad was like, have you ever seen Chris Stokes after you outed him? And Raz B was like, yeah, we had a little meeting or whatever like that. And he basically implied that it didn't go well, but he refrained from giving details. But he said something to the effect like, y'all know what it is, like those who know what it is, or something. And I was like, whoa. Now, another factor that plays into Chris Stokes' influence that can be seen in Raz B's chart is that Raz B has his Chiron at the 9th degree of Gemini. That 9th degree deals with males. It can represent sex, also abuse, conflict. And his Chiron runs parallel to the asteroid Amor. Amor deals with the object of your affection, or a lover, love in general. So this is further reinforcement of the whole, I didn't talk about this. Oh, I didn't even get to this though. Hold on here. Let me back up before I talk about this Chiron parallel more. So, like I said, not Chris Stokes. Raz B's sun is in Gemini. It's at the 22nd degree. That 22nd degree is very challenging because it's about submission and also where you need to exercise caution. But like I always say, it puts you in situations where either you are controlling or you're being controlled. Usually there's no middle ground. Also, it could produce extreme willfulness, whether it's in yourself or in others. And it can even represent sudden death, that 22nd degree. So Gemini, again, represents siblings, but also relatives, including cousins. And that 22nd degree, after doing some research on that 22nd number, I'm really speculating at this point that 22 could be representative of incestual relations, so incest. And what's interesting is, and I'm putting this image up, if you take the number 22 and you reverse one of the twos and you put them together, inside you'll see a heart. So when I saw that, I was like, ew, that could be like incest because 2 represents family. So yeah, and 22 together, that can represent things that are unconventional, things that are even perverse, things that are strange, odd, unusual. 22 is a master number, but it's not a very fortunate number. It can be one of the most challenging numbers to have in your chart in terms of degrees. And it can be challenging in terms of birth number, life path number. So I call the 22nd degree, I'm calling it, especially in Raz B's case, the kissing cousins degree. So that brings me back up to Chiron parallel more. Because Raz B's Chiron is in Gemini, this is further reinforcement of the kissing cousins theme. Now, Chris being a pedo boy lover, that's what it's representing. And him being in love with Raz B, or having love for Raz B at the same time, which shows that this experience fucked Raz B's head up. That's Chiron and Gemini, because love was combined with abuse. And that's how a lot of these abusive situations work out, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse amongst family members. There's love there, but also abuse, which will really create psychological trauma within a person and serious trust issues. Another telling aspect, Raz B's Chiron is opposed to his Lilith, and that points to Chris Stokes being a sexual deviant, also sexual abuse at the hands of Stokes, and where Stokes becomes a pariah. Well, not quite, because he's still, like I said, he hasn't been caught up yet. Hopefully he will. Well, he probably won't. He's a 21 in terms of birth number, and 21s could get away with murder in some cases. So he might never have to answer for his crimes in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime, or when he immediately crosses over, oh yeah, he might come face to face with his demons for real. But it seems like he's kind of skating free now. And I'm going to get into his chart in a minute. Now, Chiron runs contra-parallel to Pandora in Raz B's chart. And again, Pandora is at the second degree, that family theme again. Second degree of Scorpio, retrograde. This is him outing Stokes as a sexual deviant, pedophile, also where he was abusing members of his own family, that second degree. Because Pandora deals with, the myth is like there was a box of all the evils and vices and nasties and all that type of stuff, and the box became open and all of that nasty stuff became released. Now Chiron is conjoined to Aldebaran, a fixed star that can bestow popularity upon an individual, but it also can create agitation, danger, loss, and it can result in a violent death. Now, back to Raz B's sun. So his sun is at the 22nd degree of Gemini. His Saturn is at the 22nd degree of Scorpio. That forms a quincunx aspect. And this points to Raz B being under Stokes' management, but where the management comes with abuse. Sexual abuse, that is. And also where he is under Stokes' complete control. Because remember I said about that 22nd degree? And then especially if you're talking about Saturn at the 22nd degree of Scorpio, that's somebody where you're under their complete control for an extended period of time. Now, Raz B's sun is opposed to Uranus. This deals with the perversion of a relationship with a cousin, a sibling, a relative, because Raz B's sun is in Gemini, but also his subsequent ostracization as a result of coming out with this piping hot tea. So even though Raz B was spilling tea, it didn't really go over so well. So some people took notice, but other people really didn't make a big deal out of it, which is kind of a shame. It is a big shame. But he also ostracized himself by going to China. And this can point to issues with his manhood and where he is at odds with his homosexual tendencies brought forth by Chris Stokes. So there's some other indicators of sexual abuse, violations, victimization in Raz B's chart. He has Mars opposition Neptune. Again, his Mars is at the 2nd degree of Cancer. His Neptune's at the 2nd degree of Capricorn. So that is sexual victimization, being someone's sex slave. In this case, it was Chris Stokes' sex slave, being used, exploited for sex. But this also deals with him moving to China. Because Mars in Cancer can deal with where you lay down new roots. And in his case, he actually laid down new roots in a whole nother country. And Mars opposition Neptune can deal with where you're fleeing something, you're trying to escape something. So again, this is showing that, in my opinion, he fled to China. He didn't just move to China because he wanted to. They ran that boy off, most likely with threats. Now, Raz B's Mars is in sextile square with Jupiter. Again, Jupiter is at the 16th degree of Aquarius. This could deal with where he has to restrain himself from the temptation to taste the rainbow. You know what I'm saying? Now, there was a rumor that Vlad mentioned during the interview about Raz B molesting some young teen. And Raz B, the interesting thing was, because I'm always, looking for underlying meanings of what people say, and I'm always trying to look beneath the surface of what people say. So Raz B's first response, which I found to be very suspect, was, he was like, what year? And then Vlad said the year, and he was like, oh, I was in China at that time, or something like that. And I'm like, why would you ask 1 year if you're not even capable of doing something like that? I'm not saying Raz B did it, but I'm just saying I would suspect of that. And you know how sometimes the abuser can become the abused. And Raz B is definitely dealing with some serious mental health issues in his chart. He's dealing with some serious issues with his sexuality. So you never know. But yeah, I was like real suspicious when he responded in that manner. And what was strange too was he was wearing these dark sunglasses throughout the whole interview. You need to check this out to see what I'm talking about. And when Vlad asked him the question about the rumor that he molested some young teen, Raz B took off his sunglasses and he looked like he was high as shit and not on weed. He looked like he might be a pill popper. But he took off his glasses and he faced the camera and he was like, no, I did not, or whatever like that. And I'm like, that seemed like a bit too forced. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, why did you have to make an emphasis like that? I'm just saying, y'all let me know what you think in the comment section about that. But check out that interview he did with Vlad. I think he did it like a year ago in 2018. Now, another aspect in Raz B's chart, and then I'm going to get to Chris Stokes' chart because this video is getting kind of long. Let me see where I'm at. 23 minutes. So, Raz B's Venus is opposed to his Pluto. His Venus is at the 6th degree of Taurus. That's good for music, dancing. His Pluto is at the 2nd degree of Scorpio. That 2nd degree, that family theme again. We can't get away from it in his chart. We can't get away from the 16th degree and that 2nd degree. Very strong in his chart. So with Venus opposition Pluto, that can produce situations where love is tainted, corrupted, or it can point to a soured relationship, being used, abused, exploited for an extended period of time, being in a relationship with an abuser. So the relationship in this case was they were cousins and also he was his business manager. And Raz B also has Pluto conjoined to the asteroid Pandora. And I already talked about what Pandora means. So that's another aspect about him outing, Chris Stokes revealing sexual indiscretions, sexual abuse. It can also point to psychological problems that he has now as a result of all that abuse. Now, let's get into Chris Stokes. So, the interesting thing about Chris Stokes, when I pulled up Wikipedia, and I pulled up, like, other areas of, like, I Googled Chris Stokes' birthday, but on Wikipedia, it was not listed. And then I had to go to a couple of sites before I found this one site that listed his birthday as July 21st, 1969. And that would make him Cancer, but at the very late degree. I believe it's at the 28th degree. Hold on. Let me double check. Yeah, that puts his sun at the 28th degree of Cancer. So, just 1 second. Let me go back to my notes. So when I look, looking at Chris Stokes, I was like, yeah, that's probably his birthday because he looks like a Cancer. And then he's a 21, and 21s can be pudgy, or some of them can be downright fat. So he does have that pudginess to him. So I was like, yeah, he probably is, born on July 21st, 1969. So I'm going with that birth date. And considering what I see in the chart, I'm like, oh yeah, this is his birth date. So 21 as a birth number echoes his Mars in Sagittarius. So his Mars is at the 2nd degree of Sagittarius. That 2nd degree, of course, the family again. Now, 21 in terms of birth number can be very fortunate, but it can also result in hubris. Remember when I talked about Nemesis with the hubris? So hubris again means excessive pride, vainglory, arrogance, where you're overly confident in yourself. And 21 and Sagittarius is about freedom. 21 breaks down to 3. That's the number of Jupiter, also Sagittarius. So 21 and Sagittarius are about freedom, but they can also, on the dark end, make somebody want to be about like just having a free-for-all, doing what the hell they want, even if it means that other people, at other people's expense. And it could cause one to act as if they are above the law, but also where they're acting high and mighty. And Sagittarius, of course, rules religion. So now Stokes has the nerve to be waving the JW flag. JW meaning Jehovah's Witness. So go ahead and skip over to his Instagram and see how hard he's repping the JWs now. But I'm not surprised though, because there are a lot of sexual predators that are deep into religion because of their conscience. And they use it as a cloak for their evil deed. So, that's churches, mosques, temples are full of these sexual predators. The preachers, the priests, the imams, all of them themselves be getting down like that, a lot of them. Now, Chris Stokes' life path number is 8, and that represents him being a business manager. But, you know how 8 can get down in terms of sexual attraction, on the dark end, that is. So just look at R. Kelly, who was born on January 8th, and Elvis was born on January 8th as well. And both R. Kelly and Elvis went after young girls. Elvis married Priscilla Presley, I think when she was only 14, 15. R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was only 15, but he was having sex with Aaliyah well before that. Now, Chris Stokes' Pluto is conjoined to his South Node in Virgo, and they're both at the 23rd degree. That can make someone just naturally hypersexual because they're bringing that energy from a past life. So it's like deeply ingrained within them. It can make him very compulsive. It can make him want to have sexual servants because of that Virgo influence. And also where he abuses his power. And Virgo can represent him being attracted to young virgins. Also where he's helping with an ulterior or sinister motive. And where he's a natural at grooming. And the term grooming and how it's associated with child molesters, pedophiles. So I see that Pluto South Node conjunction in Virgo as him engaging in grooming tactics in order to molest young boys. He still might be molesting young boys. Oh, let me stop. This is all allegation. Let me just, make sure I'm putting it out there because, the more prominent I get, and I did notice that I reached 15,000 subscribers yesterday. So thank you everybody who has subscribed Thank you everybody for your support, your love, all that type of stuff. So my channel is growing. I'm still a fledgling compared to a lot of YouTubers out there. You know, I'm still small town, but I'm emerging, I'm growing. So the more prominent I get, the more I need to, watch what I say. So again, I have to explicitly state that these are still allegations that have been made by Raz B because Chris Stokes has never been convicted of any of these crimes. So I have to put that out there. Now, back to his chart. So he has Uranus conjunct Jupiter, and they're both at the 0 degree of Libra. That's that Aries point of Libra, very significant degree. And this points to the music groups that he managed, but it also represents his truth being outed by someone because of the Libra, that 0 degree. Uranus and Jupiter are opposed to the asteroid Shiva. So this is him causing destruction, but also where the lid is being blown off with respect to his homosexuality and his perversion, him being a pedophile. And this could be him trying to destroy any testimony that could incriminate him. Also, he could be sending out death threats, perhaps, cease and desist orders because of that Libra influence. And perhaps he served this to Raz B and anybody else who wanted to speak out about him. And he could be doing sweeps of the internet, or he could hire somebody to do sweeps of the internet just to make sure that there's no information being leaked about him. Uranus and Jupiter are conjoined to the asteroid Icarus. So I look at this as where he was making Marques Houston join in, because that's what Raz B asserted, that he had Marques Houston join in with the abuse, and where he made Marques Houston an accomplice, because Icarus deals with where you give someone else the reins and you're like, here, go ahead, try it out yourself. But where it all blows up in your face because the person that you handed the reins to was not ready, or they were inexperienced, or they were overly cocky, or whatever like that. But in this situation, I feel like it's pointing to the Marques Houston piece of the equation. But it also just deals with him being outed as a result of being overly cocky with those boys back in the day, namely Raz B. Now, Chris Stokes' Mars is at the 2nd degree of Sagittarius, and like I said on the dark end, that could deal with where he has free reign to do his evil deeds, like nobody's stopping him. And that 2nd degree, again, reinforces the theme of family. And with Mars at the 2nd degree of Sagittarius, that could point to him going too far with family. A male family member, mind you. And where he's wanting something extra beyond that family bond. Some interesting aspects that he has involving asteroids. He has Mars opposing Hygeia. So I'm wondering, Hygeia is the asteroid that deals with health and also illness and health care. So I was like, did he give those boys STDs? But it can point to him having STDs himself, or where he even has a blood-borne disease, which could be AIDS or hepatitis. His Mars is in Sagittarius. He might have hepatitis. Now, he might also have asthma because Hygeia is in Gemini, or some other respiratory disease. And the grooming theme resurfaces with Hygeia because, like I said, it could deal with, health care or even grooming to some respects. Because he, according to Raz B, he had them controlled totally, where he controlled how they dress, he controlled their friends, like the type of friends they would associate with. None of them could speak to girls or have relationships with girls, really. He controlled what they ate. They were all vegetarian. They couldn't eat meat. And I have to say, there's a strong correlation between eating meat and manhood. So a lot of vegans, I'm not getting down on vegans or anything, it's known as some in the anti-vegan circles, I'll say that are that they call vegan soy boys. Or, there's this term called soy boy, which is like an effeminate male. And if you give males too much soy, they could end up becoming less masculine, especially the younger you give it to them. And I never forget that video. I love the video. I love the group. Like, that was the first I ever saw when they came out with the video. And I remember I was just so enamored by their dancing and the song and all that. But I remember looking at J Boog in particular. And I remember looking at them so young, and I was like, oh, wow. I know he's gay. Now, he could just be, just destined to be gay because, he's just naturally wired to be like that, but maybe he turned that way because Chris Stokes turned him out. And I think Raz B did say that J Boog was abused too. And he even revealed in his one video, he said, I don't know why Little Fizz is calling me a homo because he's the first one that got fucked up the ass. I was like, whoa, no, he didn't just say that. But Raz B is a Gemini. So, yeah. Now, but that's like really interesting about this Hygeia. Now, his Mars is also running contraparallel to Astrolabe, which is another asteroid that could deal with health, illness. So I'm thinking again, is this STDs or a bloodborne disease that he has? Now, his Mars is opposed to Phaethon, and this could deal with him getting caught up, the truth coming out as a result of being cocky, overly confident with his sexual transgressions, his sexual abuse. His Mars is running parallel to Fasces. That is one of the most challenging fixed stars, y'all. That can make him ruthless, a risk taker where, he's taking these risks with abusing these boys, where he's cold, violent, but it also points to sickness. He might have AIDS at this point. And also it can represent accidents. Now his Venus, I'm getting to the real sick part, y'all. His Venus is at the 16th degree of Gemini. There goes that 16. Remember I said the 16 is prominent in Raz B's chart. And Chris Stokes has Venus at the 16th degree of Gemini. There's that Gemini cousin. 16th degree, secrets, victimization, sacrifice, catastrophe, lies. And also that 16th degree, Venus at the 16th degree of Gemini can represent his prey. Him preying upon his cousin. Now here's the really damning part. His Venus is conjoined to the asteroid Hebe. That is the child molester pedophile aspect because Hebe represents youth, children. So this shows he has an attraction to children. Allegedly, I'll say it's the potential is there. Now real quick, let's get into some of the aspects in their synastry, which are also quite telling. So there's several aspects that represent the sexual abuse that was going on. Chris's Mars is in quincunx to Raz B's Mars, and they're both at the 2nd degree. There's that family theme again. So that sexual indiscretions with Stokes having the upper hand, crossing the line. Chris's Chiron is squaring Raz B's Mars. Chris's Chiron is at the 6th degree of Aries. That 6th degree is the music. 2nd degree of Cancer, Raz B's Mars is at. So that's Stokes inflicting sexual wounds upon Raz B. Chris's Uranus is squaring Raz B's Mars. That's Stokes forcing his perversion and gay ways on Raz B. Stokes objectifying Raz B. And Stokes being a tyrant over him. Chris's Jupiter is squaring Raz B's Mars. That is Stokes having a free-for-all with Raz B. But it could also be Stokes' attorney leaning on Raz B to stop with his stories. That's a blackmail aspect. Oh, and that Mars in Cancer, especially at the 2nd degree, represents Raz B telling these stories. Because Cancer is a storyteller. Now, also, this Jupiter square Mars, that's a blackmail aspect as well. So Raz B may have tried to blackmail Chris, and maybe Chris didn't bite. And maybe he got his lawyer involved as a result. Now, Chris's Pluto is squaring Raz B's Sun. And that is Stokes abusing Raz B. And Chris's Sun is squaring Raz B's Pluto, so they have the inverse of this. And that's Raz B exposing Stokes in return. Chris's nodes are squaring Raz B's Sun. His nodes are at Virgo, Pisces, so his south node is in Virgo, north node in Pisces. And Raz B's Sun is at that 22nd degree of Gemini again. So this is showing that, remember I said, especially with that Virgo south node, the whole sexual servant thing, and also the sibling relationship, basically crossing the line. The Pisces deals with the music, but also secrecy, victimization. And remember I said that 22nd degree is the kissing cousins. Chris's Mercury is squaring Raz B's Pluto. That is Raz B exposing Stokes, resenting him, hating him. Chris's Pluto is afflicting Raz B's Venus through a sesqui square aspect. That's Stokes corrupting their family and musical relationship. And Chris's Venus is in sesqui square with Raz B's Pluto, which is another inverse aspect combination. And Raz B, that deals with Raz B hitting, or no, I'll say this. I'm looking at that as perhaps Raz B hitting up Stokes for hush money. Again, like that blackmail theme. And maybe it didn't work. Maybe he came out with the tea once that plan fell through to extort money out of him. Now maybe Stokes has tried to keep Raz B quiet with money in the past. I use extort, but extort is the wrong legal term. It would be blackmail. Alright, so that's it. So, again, like I always like to say, the proof is in the astrological pudding when you look at Raz B's chart, but also when you look at Chris Stokes' chart, and then especially when you combine their charts and look at it per synastry. This is a crazy story, but like I said, R. Kelly is getting all the heat right now, but I feel that Chris Stokes should be getting just as much heat. So, hopefully Lifetime needs to do a docu-series on Chris Stokes. Shoot. But Chris Stokes has protection with that 21 birth number. So, like I said, I won't be surprised if he doesn't even have to atone for his sins in this lifetime. But he definitely will in the next lifetime. So, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Please like and subscribe if you like this video and if you want to see more like that. And if you would like a reading, you could go to my website at rabina.com. Peace and many blessings. And I'll be back with more videos.